This conference will now be recorded.
Hope I'm audible for everyone. Sorry for the late. I had to extend 5 minutes more the morning class. So because of that, it got delayed. We'll get started. Yesterday, we were discussing about what is VPC, what is NAT, what is VPC peering. Uh, I hope everyone is able to create a VPC and do the VPC peering. I see approximately, I think 15 to 20 people has done already. I think approximately 20-25 people has done approximately, but try to rest of the others also try to do it as early as possible, because we are progressing the course. If you are not practicing, when I start Docker, if you are still looking into Jenkins, if you are still practicing Ansible, if I start Docker, if I start Kubernetes, you are still practicing AWS, you cannot concentrate on the course. You cannot focus on what I am teaching, and at the same time, you are not able to progress on the assignments and learning also. So try to complete the assignments as early as possible, on the same day or the next day, or by that weekend at least. You have to finish your backlogs so that you can focus on the next topics. Whoever has not yet done, try to complete that assignments as early as possible. So today we'll try to focus on one more important topic called ELB. So what is ELB? Before ELB, let's understand what is this LB. Load balancer. This LB is load balancer. ELB is basically elastic load balancer. As you already know, load balancers are used in any project you take. We are going to use load balancers to balance our load to the application servers, right? So any application you take, do we have a load balancer sits in front of our application servers? End user request will go to the load balancer will forward the request to your application servers, right? Any application you take, you have a load balancer. I hope you already know what is load balancer, why do we need load balancer, and hope you guys went through that Nginx or HTTPD, how to set up my load balancer on my own, right? So we have a load balancer. Then what is this ELB? Elastic load balancer. It's a fully managed load balancer. What is the meaning of fully managed load balancer? Or it's a managed load balancer, I can say. It's a managed load balancer, I can say. What is the meaning of managed load balancer? If I go with ELB, do I need to set up load balancer on my own? Do I need to worry about high availability of that load balancer if I go with ELB? No. So who is going to set up the load balancer and who is going to manage the availability of load balancer if I go with ELB? AWS. But if without going ELB also, can I have a load balancer in AWS by just creating a EC2 instance? Can I install HTTPD, Nginx, or HA proxy? Can I manage the load balancer on my own by just creating EC2? Yes. But if that is the case, who is responsible for installing load balancer and who is responsible if something goes wrong with that load balancer? Who is responsible? We need to take care. We need to take care. But instead of going with that approach, does cloud has load balancers, load balancer as a service? Yes. Any cloud you go, in AWS we call it as a ELB. In Google Cloud we will call it as a Google load balancers. In Azure Cloud we will call it as a Azure load balancers. So there are some services available to manage the load balancer by AWS itself. Now, if you take any application, are we going to have a load balancer? Yes. So we are going to have a load balancer for any application you take. Now, without load balancer, we are accessing like this. Without load balancer, we are accessing like this. But now, let's say in real time, are we going to expose this application to the end users without load balancer? No, for multiple reasons. Multiple reasons. One reason, if this is in a private network, if this application server, this Tomcat server is running in a private subnet, does end users can reach these private servers directly without internet? No. That is one reason. Even though this is in public subnet, you are not going to expose. It will be in private subnets. At the same time, are you going to have a multiple servers where our application will be deployed, where our application will be replicated? Do you have a multiple replicas of our application in real time? Instead of one replica, which means instead of running in one server, are we going to have our application replicated in multiple servers, multiple replicas? Yes. Why? Why we need to deploy our application in multiple replicas? I mean to say multiple servers, for high availability. Which means if you have your application only in one instance, for some reason this instance is down, or Tomcat is down, there is a network issue in this instance, or there is a storage issue in this instance, or your Tomcat is down, does end users will be able to access the application if you have only one application server where you have hosted your application? If you have only one server and there is a issue in that server with network or storage or Tomcat, anything, no, then you can't access. But instead of having one application server, can I have something like this? Multiple application servers. I mean to say multiple replicas of my application like this, where my application is hosted in this server, as well as this server. But if I have these servers, how end users will access? Does end users will reach these servers independently? If end user is trying to reach this server, if this is not reachable, does end user will reach this server independently like this? Is it going to work like that? No. So you have a multiple applications servers which are running here. In front of that application servers, can I have a load balancer? Load balancer. Load balancer. If it is a load balancer, whether you are using on-prem, whether you are using cloud, suppose you are using your own data center, can I set up a load balancer using some softwares like F5, HA proxy, Nginx? Yes. So can I create one server? That server may be having a public subnet, that public network in the internet. So end user request can go to this load balancer. What this load balancer does, if I have that reverse proxy, if you have referred that video, Nginx video, where we have explained what is reverse proxy, what is those upstream servers and all those things. So can I have those details, reverse proxy details, my upstream server details? If request comes to load balancer, to which server, on which port it has to forward the request? So using that Nginx HTTPD or HA proxy or F5, can I set up load balancer for my application servers, even though you are using your own data center? Yes. Then end users can access via this load balancer. But if I am going with cloud, do I have any other better option? Because I don't want to create a separate server on my own. I don't want to install any load balancing on my own. Do you have any other better option, solution available in cloud? Yes, that is where the cloud load balancer comes into picture. That cloud load balancers. basically managed load balancer. In AWS, I have a service called ELB. If I create a ELB, who is going to create load balancer instances in the background? Who is going to manage high availability of that load balancer servers itself? AWS. So do I need to worry about the availability of that load balancer server? Do I need to set up the load balancer on my own if I go for ELB? No. We will create a ELB. With the help of ELB, will I able to route my traffic? Will I able to send my request to these application servers? Yes. So ELB, elastic load balancer, ELB, elastic load balancer, it will automatically distribute incoming application traffic across multiple targets. This ELB can distribute application traffic across multiple targets. What is the meaning of targets here? Can I call my EC2 instances as a targets in the background? Yes. Now, for what purpose load balancer we will use? We already know. Load balancer is used to route incoming request to multiple EC2 instances. It will distribute the load also. Let's say 1 lakh people are accessing my application. 1 lakh requests are coming to my application. Request goes to the load balancer. Does load balancer will distribute the load also? Instead of sending all the traffic to one server, will it distribute the load? Maybe 30,000 requests may go to this server, 35,000 requests may go to this server, remaining 35 may go to this server, like this. Will it distribute the load also between these servers, load balancer? Yes. Typical any load balancer does that. So if it is doing the balancing between the load also, do we have lot of overhead or lot of load on single server? If it is balancing the load, it is sharing the load. So we will not have lot of load in a single instance. Your load is distributed. So do you have a better performance in your application servers, in your application, because it is distributing the load? Yes. And also, for some reason, if one of the target is not well, which means one of the instance is down, what load balancer does? Will it shift the traffic to other instances, other healthy instances? If this is down, it will route the traffic to other instances. Any typical load balancer does the same thing. Does ELB also does the same thing here? Yes. ELB also will route the traffic to your servers and it will distribute the load. It will perform a health checks. If something is wrong with this target, it will try to shift the traffic to other targets. Load balancer is used to route incoming requests to multiple EC2 instances or containers also in your VPC. So this elastic load balancer, one important point to be remembered here, this elastic load balancer will distribute application traffic across multiple targets in a different availability zones. It can distribute the traffic to multiple targets in a different availability zones. Target is nothing but your server in the background. It can be in different availability zone, but it has to be in same region. It has to be in same region. What does it mean? What does it mean? ELB can route the traffic to different targets, even though targets are in different availability zones, but in same region, which means I have a AWS cloud. I have Mumbai region. Within Mumbai region, I have my availability zones, those subnets. Let's say this is 1A, this is 1A, this is 1B, So I have a load balancer created in same network. I have created a load balancer in same network, same VPC. Now, this ELB is created in Mumbai region. If I have a servers in 1A or 1B, will it able to route the traffic to these servers? This ELB will be able to send the traffic to this server as well as this server? Yes. ELB can route the traffic to multiple targets in a different availability zones within the same region. But suppose I have a different region like Singapore. Now I have some server, my application server running in Singapore region. Does the load balancer which is created in Mumbai region will be able to send the traffic to the server which is running in Singapore region? Is this possible? Is it going to happen like this? No, it is not going to happen like this. Which means ELB, can I call ELB as a regional level service? Regional level service? Yes, it's a regional level service. But if you really want to have a multi-region load balancing, I have my applications hosted in different regions. I want to achieve multi-region load balancing. That is possible using one more concept. You need to have a ELB here, and you need a global load balancer. That is, you can leverage Route 53. You can leverage Route 53 here. So this Route 53, with the help of Route 53 and ELB, can I do the multi-region load balancing? This will act as a global load balancer. So with the help of Route 53 and load balancer, I can achieve multi-region load balancing. In the Route 53, I can route the traffic to the load balancer which is there in Singapore region, and also the load balancer which is there in Mumbai region. So request will be routed to this load balancer or this load balancer here. So in that case, with the help of Route 53, kind of a GLB, global load balancer, with the help of Route 53 and ELB, is it possible to do the multi-region load balancing? Yes. So that is possible. But anyhow, we are not covering all those things here. Just to give an idea, I am discussing here. So we are trying to cover ELB. ELB is a regional level service. It can route the traffic to multiple targets in a different availability zones, but within the same region. Which means, does this ELB and server should be in same region? The ELB and server should be in same region? Yes. That is how it works. Now, there are different types of load balancers available again. There are different types of load balancers available. Here. Network load balancer, application load balancer, and a classic load balancer. Network load balancer, application load balancer, and classic load balancer. There is a one more thing, gateway load balancer, something is there that is out of our topic. We are not discussing gateway load balancer. So this is, we are not discussing here. What is that? Now, what is this network load balancer? What is this application load balancer? What is this classic load balancer? Basically, this network load balancer, or we call it as a layer 4 load balancer. We call it this as a layer 4 load balancer or network load balancer. This one we call it as layer 7 load balancer or application load balancer. So what is this layer 4? What is this layer 7? You need to understand OSI model. OSI model. In the OSI model, there are 7 layers. There are 7 layers, OSI layers or OSI model. There are 7 layers in the OSI model. So, what is that OSI at high level? OSI model or OSI layer, open systems interconnection model. That OSI model or OSI layers we call it. What is the full form of OSI? Open systems interconnection model. Basically, how one system can communicate with other system. How one system can communicate with other system. This OSI is basically to describe the networking, how the networking will function. So there are 7 layers in this OSI model. Anyone has any idea already? What are those layers? The first layer, the bottom layer. We are going to explain from the bottom, not from top to down. It's bottom to up when we are discussing OSI layers. So first one is physical layer. The second one is data link layer. This third one is basically network layer. The fourth one is basically transport layer. This fifth one is basically we have session layer, and sixth one is basically presentation layer. This seventh one is basically application layer. So we have this OSI model, OSI standards. Now, any system or any device want to transfer some data, send some packets, data packets. So that is based on this OSI layer. So basically, we have different layers here, OSI layers, like data link layer, physical layer, all those things. Now, in the physical layer, the data will be transmitted over physical medium like a cables, physical medium. So this data link layer is basically define the format of the data on the network. This transport layer is very important in the OSI model. In the OSI model, we call it as a heart of the OSI. Heart of the OSI is this transport layer. Basically, it will use TCP/IP protocol here. TCP protocol, TCP/IP, or TCP or UDP. So what is the TCP? TCP is one protocol. So it will transmit the data using TCP protocol or UDP protocol. So this is the heart of the networking layer, transport layer. It works on the TCP and IP standards. It will work on the TCP and IP standards, which means any data which you are trying to send, will it have a IP address? I mean to say, to which destination it has to send? To which destination it has to send? This transport layer in the OSI model will send the data packets, will send the data packets to the destination using this TCP or UDP protocol. This is the heart of the networking layer. So this network load balancer is called as a layer 4 load balancer. It works on which protocol? It is based on which protocol? This works based on the TCP protocol. It works based on the TCP protocol. It is just a server to server layer 4 load balancer, which means which means this is client. Let's say this is client. Let's consider this is network load balancer. This is network load balancer, let's say, for now. And I am trying to access my application and send the data. Does this load balancer can intercept for what application request is coming, for what path request is coming? Will it able to intercept any request, HTTP request like headers or path? Will it able to intercept? If it is a layer 4 load balancer, network load balancer, it is not based on the HTTPS or HTTP. So suppose I am trying to access like this. Just to give an example, let's say I am trying to access like this. Just to give an example, I am taking this. Now this is the domain point to this load balancer. Let's say request goes to this load balancer. Does load balancer will be able to understand for which path request is coming or for which host request is coming? If it is a network load balancer, will it able to intercept the request for which host, which path request is coming? No. It is just a TCP protocol, like port to port mapping like that. Now, what is the default port on which load balancer will listen? 80. Now, the request will blindly go to that server on port 80. Will it able to intercept the data, HTTP data which is coming to that load balancer? If it is a network load balancer, no. So the request go to this port. What it does maximum? This network load balancer request goes to this server on this port. Maximum what it will do? It will route the traffic. It will forward the traffic to some other IP and port. It will try to route the traffic to some other IP and port. It is at a network level. But will it able to intercept request is coming for which application, what headers are coming, what is the path of that application? If it is a layer 4 load balancer, network load balancer, it is like a server to server. It cannot intercept the request. Request goes to this load balancer. Load balancer will forward the traffic to some group of servers on some port. Here, if the request is coming to port 80, can I define it should forward the traffic to so and so application server, something like this, on that port like 8080 where my Tomcat is running? Can I have something like this? But here, can I intercept what request is coming, what is the header, what is the path of that application? If it is a network load balancer, no. It will blindly route the traffic to this server and this server, if based on this one. So this is layer 4, transport layer. Now, if it is an application layer load balancer, that we call it as a layer 7 load balancer, that works based on what? That works based on that works at the application level, application layer. So based on the application layer, HTTP, HTTPS. So if I am using application layer, will I able to intercept the request and take decision to which server it has to route the traffic? If the request is coming for ABC application, route the traffic to ABC servers. If the request is coming for XYZ application, route the traffic to XYZ application. Will I able to do that if I am using application layer? I mean to say application load balancer, that is layer 7 load balancer. Yes. So this load balancer, if it is a layer 7 load balancer, here this load balancer can understand what is the host of the request, what is the path of the request. In that case, will I able to route the traffic to different applications with single load balancer? If it is an application load balancer, will I able to route the traffic to different applications with single load balancer? Yes. Just to make it simple, let me tell you. I hosted this application. Maven web-application in this server, and I hosted that application in this server. Suppose I am using network load balancer here. If someone is accessing like this, just to give an example, I am saying, if someone is accessing like this, HTTP or HTTPS, whatever it is, if it is a network load balancer here, will I able to understand what is the host of the application I am getting here, for which application I am getting a request? No, we cannot understand what is the request. Now let's say I have one more application. Let's say I have one more application. I deployed Node.js application. Now someone is accessing like this. Someone is accessing like this, let's say Node.js app, just to give an example. Now both are pointing to same IP. This domain also pointing to the same IP, that is load balancer IP. This is also pointing to the same IP, that is this load balancer IP. But here, does this load balancer will be able to differentiate whether it has to route the traffic to this server, if this is how it is coming, whether it has to route the traffic to this server? Do we able to differentiate to which servers? If this is coming to this load balancer, will I able to differentiate whether request should go to this server or this server? Will I able to do that? If it is a network load balancer, no, you can't do that. You cannot differentiate. It is just a port to port mapping. Request comes to this server on some port, and this will forward the traffic to some servers on that port. It cannot differentiate request is coming for which application. In that case, do I need to have two separate load balancers for these two applications? I need to have one more load balancer. Now, this load balancer can route the traffic to only this server, this application, this Node.js. This load balancer can route the traffic to this servers, like that. Is it possible for me to differentiate and route the traffic to different applications with single load balancer? If it is a network load balancer, that is layer 4 load balancer, will I able to differentiate and route the traffic to different applications with single load balancer if it is a network load balancer or layer 4 load balancer? No. But in case if it is an application load balancer, layer 7 load balancer, in that, does that load balancer has a mechanism to intercept the request and take the decision whether it has to route the traffic? If request is coming like this, route the traffic to these two servers. If the request is coming like this, route the traffic to this server or group of servers. If it is an application load balancer, will I able to achieve host based routing, path based routing? Yes. We are using Nginx. In Nginx, can I do that routing also, whether host based, path based? If required, you can do host based, path based also, or TCP port to port also you can do. Port to port also you can do. Nginx, HTTPD, HA proxy, you can configure that load balancer on TCP, or you can configure the load balancer on HTTP, which means you can you can have a routing mechanism where you can route the traffic to different servers based on the host, based on the path also. Okay. In the interview, this is very important, guys. Sometimes in the interview they are asking what is network load balancer, what is application load balancer, or sometimes they will ask what is layer 4 load balancer, what is layer 7 load balancer. What is the difference between network load balancer or application load balancer? Network load balancer works on which layer? Layer 4. On which protocol it works? On which protocol it works? TCP. So if it is a network load balancer, it is like server to server communication without intercepting the request. So with network load balancer, will I able to route the traffic to different applications based on the host, based on the path of the application? No. When it comes to application load balancer, at which layer it is going to work? Layer 7. If it is a layer 7 load balancer, in the load balancer, can I have advanced routing mechanisms like host based routing, path based routing? Can I define advanced routing mechanisms based on the host of the request or based on the path of the request? Will I able to route the traffic to different servers? Layer 7? Yes. Sometimes in the interview they'll ask what is layer 4, what is layer 7, what is network load balancer, what is application load balancer. I think if you have gone through the interview questions, whatever we shared recently, one of our student got the interview, attended the interview. What questions has been asked in the interview we shared. If you see that question, I think there was a question on this one. What is network load balancer and what is application load balancer? If you guys recollect, do you have a question on that one? What is ELB? What is network load balancer? What is application load balancer? I think there was a question if I remember. Is everyone clear, guys? What is layer 4 and layer 7 and what are the OSI layers? What is network? What is application? So for now, let me start with network load balancer. I will first explain network load balancer. Then I will do the application load balancer so that it will be easy. It will be easy for you to understand the concept here. But before I set up the load balancer, do I need to have a servers where my application is hosted? Before I bring this one, do I need to have some servers at least to set up the load balancer for my application? Yes. So do I have any servers where my application is deployed as of now? No, we don't have as of now. Now let me create a servers where I will deploy my application. I'll take this application. Hope you are already familiar with this application. Guys, don't ask me, sir, is this a real-time application? Because in the demos you are asking, sir, are you going to show real-time application? There is nothing called real-time. Everything is a requirement. So this is my application. This is sample application. But in your actual project, are you going to deploy this application? No, right? You are going to deploy your actual application, whatever is being developed by the developers. There is nothing called real-time. Everything is a requirement. This is one application. Similarly, once you join in your project, is developers of that project is trying to develop their application based on the requirement of that project or client. Based on the requirement of that project or client, the developers will develop the application. As a DevOps engineer, do you need to understand what is infrastructure? If I want to deploy that application, what is required? What is server? What is networking? What is storage? Do you need a server to deploy that application? Do you need a storage to store the data? Do you need a databases? Do you need a load balancers? Do you need a networks to have those servers created? Whether it's a sample application, whether it's a actual application, does the concept is same? Concept is same. The project is going to be different. That's it. Now I have this application. Now I want to deploy this application for my end users. The developers already developed this application and they're maintaining in SCM. Now I want to deploy. So do I need some network? Do I need some servers to deploy this application? So do I already have a VPC created? With private subnets, public subnets? Let's say yes. So in that VPC, in that network, can I create a servers to deploy this application? as an infrastructure team. As an infrastructure team, suppose you are working on the infrastructure, you are responsible for creating networks and servers like that. But if someone is already part of infrastructure team, do you request that infrastructure team to have a servers to deploy this application? Yes. Now let me create a servers to deploy this application. I am creating a servers. For practicing purpose, I am just taking T2.micro. But in real time, are you going to have your application servers with just 1 GB, 1 core? No. You can take some very high number. Now, for now, let me take this Red Hat server. Now, T2.micro. I don't want to waste my time because I want to install Java. I want to install Tomcat also in this server because that is a Java-based web application. So do I need to configure this server with required softwares to deploy that application? Yes. So I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my time again installing once the server is created. What concept I can use so that while creating a server itself, I can have the required softwares. You can use your own AMI, custom AMI, or you can use your own AMI, custom AMI, where you have a softwares also. Otherwise, if I'm taking a plain AMI like this community AMIs I am taking, in that case, can I use user data here? Can I use user data here where I can install, where I can define the script? Yes. But before coming here, I want to create this server in this network. In which network I am planning to create? Let's say this network. Within this network again, this is for my application. In which subnet it is recommended to create, in which subnet? Public or private? Private subnet. Now I am selecting private subnet 1A, something like this. Suppose your requirement is to have a 2 servers, 2 application servers or 10 application servers. Is it again recommended to create all your 10 application servers for that application in same subnet, same availability zone? No, because AWS standards. Suppose all your application servers are in same availability zone. For some reason, due to maintenance activity, due to some failure in that data center, or any any threat or any natural disaster happened, do you have any servers which is available for your load balancer to serve the traffic for end users? If all are in same availability zone, all your application servers are in same data center, something went wrong with the data center, network outage, planned maintenance, or natural disaster, in that case, do you have any servers available for end users to access? No. So as per that standards, is it recommended to have all your application servers in same availability zone like this? No. So in that case, can I plan something like this? If it is 10, can I plan maybe 5 in one subnet, another 5 in another subnet, or 3 in one subnet, another 3 in another subnet, one more 3 in another subnet, like that? We can plan that way. So for now, I'm just demonstrating with 2 servers. So can I create one instance in this private subnet in 1A availability zone? Yes. And another instance I'll create in another availability zone. But before that, let me give the user data. So let's see if this is working. Working URL. So if I use this in my user data, is it able to download the tar file of Tomcat. If I use this URL, if you see, no. So let me get the working URL. And also, if you remember, I am directly downloading Tomcat from internet, but that is a private server. But how private server is able to download the tar file from internet directly? Because that user data is going to be executed in private server. How that is happening? That is happening because there is a NAT instance, NAT gateway. Now let me take this URL. Let me take this URL. I am taking this working URL. Is this able to download? I am just testing in my browser. Is it able to download? Yes. So I am updating this here. But if you see, I just updated this one, but here I am downloading 8.5.77. But here the subsequent commands which is extracting, is it correct? No. So again, let me update this data. 777777. So this is my user data. Is this user data will be executed while booting the server for first time? Because of this, is it going to install Java? Is it downloading Tomcat, installing Tomcat, starting the Tomcat? Yes. But I will deploy the application manually. I will deploy the application manually. So this is my user data. This is my user data. Now, next, storage is fine. Let me tag this server. Tags, right? You can give multiple tags also. Suppose this is for dev environment, right? You can give one more tag just for metadata. Environment, you can give something like this, like development environment, or just for metadata, right? If you want to add additional tags also for identification, you can add. I'm just giving like this. Here, this is my security group for my application. What ports needs to be opened here in this server? What port needs to be opened? 80. If I don't open port 8080, does load balancer will be able to route? Does load balancer will be able to forward? No. So I'm opening port 8080. But here for everywhere you need to open. In case of network load balancer, you need to open for everywhere. Open for everywhere. This port 8080. With all these things, I created a server, one server for that application. Similarly, I am trying to demonstrate with one more server. I'll create one more EC2 instance for that application server. I'll create one more EC2 instance for that server, for that application. One more EC2 instance, T2.micro. But in which network? In which network? I am trying to create in this network, because if I create in this default VPC, you can learn, you can understand load balancing concepts by creating in default VPC also. But I want to show the actual architecture. If I create a servers in default VPC, does all my servers will be public servers? Because all the subnets of default VPC is public. So you can learn ELB, you can learn auto scaling, other things using default VPC also. It is not like you need to create here, but I'm trying to create here so that you can understand actual architecture. So in this VPC I'm creating, again which subnet? I already have one server in 1A subnet. I'll create in 1B subnet, private again, private. Now user data. Again, let me give this user data here. let me just, I'm giving like this. You can give anything, any name. Here also, do I need to open port, that 8080 port, where my application is going to be running? Yes. Now I have a servers ready. But if I don't want to manually deploy my application in this server, can I have a Jenkins in place? Can I have a pipeline created so that that pipeline can connect to these servers and copy your application whenever there is a change in your application? If I have a Jenkins in place, CI/CD in place, can I continuously integrate and deploy that application in these servers from the pipeline using whatever plugins or whatever way you have done? You can do that. I'm not again explaining that what is Jenkins, what is CI, what is CD. My primary focus is on load balancing. Now, if you don't want to manually deploy in these two servers, can you have a Jenkins server? Can you have a pipeline? In that pipeline, can you have some stages where that application can deploy, that Jenkins can deploy to these two servers using any plugin or any SCP commands also, or plugin also, whatever way? You can do that in the background, right? But I will manually deploy this one to these two servers. Now my servers are coming up. Do I need to have my application package ready? Do I need to have a package like WAR file ready for this application? Yes. So I will do that. But if you have a pipeline, does that build and deployment to those servers? If you have a pipeline? Yes. But I don't have any Jenkins instance. I don't have any pipeline created. So I'm going to manually build in some server. In which server I am planning to build? If you remember, yesterday we created one server, this server, public server. Can I consider this as a build server or Jenkins server where I can build manually? Because in real time, are you going to build and deploy in same server? I'm showing that feel actually. Are you really building your application in this server where you are deploying? No. Build will happen in a separate server. Build will happen in a separate server like Jenkins. Deployment will happen in your actual servers. So I am not building directly in this server. So I am trying to build manually in this server. Since it's a public server, from my laptop, will I able to SSH to this public server? Yes, I am trying to SSH to that server from my laptop. From my laptop, I am able to SSH to that server. But these are private servers. These are private servers. Will I able to SSH to these servers from my laptop? Whatever servers I created? No. So I connected to this server. Guys, don't get confused. Suppose you have a Jenkins server. If you write a pipeline, if Jenkins server has connectivity with your application servers, will it able to copy, deploy that WAR file in these two servers? If your Jenkins server has connectivity and you have a pipeline written, if you run the pipeline, does Jenkins can do the deployment, build and deployment, whatever I am manually doing? Whatever I'm manually doing, that can be done using Jenkins also. Suppose Jenkins is running in a different VPC. Jenkins is running in a different VPC. These application servers are running in a different VPC. There is no public IP, only private IPs, private network. Then how Jenkins can communicate? The pipeline may fail. The pipeline will fail with the network, that connection timeout. So how can I make that happen if Jenkins is in the separate VPC? And your application servers are in separate VPC, I can use peering concept. So concept is very, very important. Not like step one, Balaji sir is clicking on this button, next he is clicking on this button, next he is clicking on this button, or he is executing this command first, later this command. That is not important. concepts are important. Based on the requirement, do you need to apply or use all these concepts based on the requirement in your project? Based on the requirements, your project, you need to apply or use all these concepts to implement DevOps, right? That is important. If you know the concept, whether it's this application, whether you are actually working on this Flipkart project directly, you hire for a Flipkart company, you are working on this project, or whether you are working on this sample application, if you are good at basics, you are good at concepts, will it be difficult for you to adapt and work? No. But if you by heart, that is where problem comes. If you by heart something, that is where problem comes. You should not by heart. Understand the concept and apply all those concepts in your project as per the requirement. Now, let me connect to this server. I connected to this server. I am cloning this project. Whatever I am doing manually, as I already told, I can have all these things as a stages or steps in Jenkins pipeline. In your Jenkins pipeline also, can you have this stage which can clone your project like this? Yes. Once that is cloned, let me go inside this. Can I execute this in another stage to create an application package for that application? For this project, I went inside this. I'm executing this as one stage. Automation you can do. But do I have a Java software, Maven software here? No, I need to install. But if it is a Jenkins, if it is a Jenkins server, in your Jenkins server, do you need to install Java or Maven? You can install directly, or you can use global tool configurations. Maybe in global tool configuration, you can define all those things. So I don't have this. Manually I am doing. So I'm installing. Guys, I'm installing package manager like this. Sudo yum install Maven. So Maven depends on Java. Since I'm using package manager, does this package manager will install Java software also along with Maven if I do like this? Or whatever way you want to install, you install. Bhaskar sir has explained different way to install Java and Maven. You are using different way. Does that matter here? You need a software. That can be done in many ways. Whatever way you want to do, you can do. That is not important. Our end goal is I need a software. But if a requirement says you need to install specific version of the software, in that case, do you need to follow some commands which will install specific version of Java, specific version of Maven like that? Yes. Based on the requirement, you do. I am doing this way, which will install Java as well as Maven also. If you see, Maven depends on Java. Java is also getting installed in the background. If you see, Java 1.8.0. It is installing Java 1.0 as part of the installation. So installation is very, very important. You need a software to be installed in that servers. So I have a Java software installed. I have a Maven software installed. If you see, do I have a Java and Maven here? I have a Java software. I have a Maven software. Both are there. So Kotrace Wali is asking, isn't Java installed via user data? Did I use user data for this server? This is user data used for my application server, where I want to install Java Tomcat. This is build server. I have never installed Java here. Maven not installed. Now does this command work when I execute Maven clean package? So this is working. So since I am doing it for the first time, you already know Maven concepts. Maven local repository, Maven central repository. My application is having lot of dependencies. Is those dependencies part of local repository as of now? For the first time I am doing? No. So that's why is it trying to download those dependencies from central repository to the local repository? So what is the local repository in Maven? Where exactly, or what is the local repository? .m2. I hope you already aware about all these things, right? I don't need to explain. Now for the first time, it took some time to create a package. Now can I deploy this package into these two servers? Can I deploy that package into these two servers? Whatever servers I created. So let's say, let me take this one. Let me take this as an example. Now I have created one server here. I have created one server here. I have total 4 subnets in that VPC, 2 public subnets and 2 private subnet. So in which subnets I have created my application servers? This Tomcat servers is part of private. One is in 1A, another is in 1B. Suppose you need 4 servers. Can I create 2 servers in each? Suppose you need 10 servers for your application. Can I have 5 servers in each? Like that? Yes. Now I have like this. Now I have this kind of a jump server here. I have this kind of a jump server here. So where I have built my application package as of now, I am treating this as a build server as of now, that public server which is here. I build that package. From this server, will I able to copy that WAR file to these two servers deployment? Yes. But before that, let me see whether Tomcat is running or not successfully in these servers. Tomcat is running or not successfully in these servers. Is user data is executed or not? If I take this IP directly from here, if I try to access, will I get a response even though Tomcat is running? Will I able to access here? No. Now how can I see whether Tomcat is running or not in this server? I can SSH to these servers and verify. Otherwise, can I do the curl on that IP on that port, whether it is accepting or not from this server, from the server where in the same network. I don't want to SSH. Can I test something like this? Curl -v telnet, that IP and port, If you see, it's connected to this IP on this port, which means is Tomcat is installed, is Tomcat is up and running in that server. Otherwise, can you do this way also? Curl instead of telnet, can I access something like this? Can I test like this also? Am I getting a response of the Tomcat homepage in a HTML format? Because there is no browser here. Because this is a Linux system. I can't open any browser in this Linux system and access. So I'm using curl. So am I getting the Tomcat homepage response when I'm accessing like this? So which means Tomcat is up and running in that server. Similarly, can I check in other server also? In which server I tested? 93. So I am going to test this way. Okay. So in the other server also, I am testing. Is Tomcat is accessible from this server also 204, which means is Tomcat is installed in both the servers? Yes. Sir, then what about the command, start Tomcat command which we have to give? Someone is asking, Sai Srikar. Guys, I just given a user data which will just start the Tomcat. If you stop your server and start your server, is your Tomcat is going to start automatically? No. So for that one, do you need to create service? Can you create a service and do you enable the service on Bootstrap? Whatever you have done earlier. Whatever you have done earlier, right? So that you can do. Again, though that is already discussed. We already finished that concept, right? If you want to start the Tomcat on Bootstrap, do you need to create a Tomcat as a service and enable Tomcat service on Bootstrap? That you need to do. Again, I am not explaining same thing whatever is already explained. Hope you are clear. Sai Srikar. If you want to do that, you can do that again. Now my primary focus is on this ELB. But at the same time, I am trying to recap whatever has been already discussed. I have Tomcat up and running, but is my application deployed? If you see, let's say this is my application context. Is my application deployed as of now in those servers? What is the meaning of this 404? What is the meaning of 404? Not found, page not found. So my application is not deployed. Now can I deploy my application, this WAR file, to those servers? Now I am manually doing. How can I deploy manually? Can I use SCP? SCP. Which file? Which file? Within this target folder, I have a file called maven-web-application.var. To which server I want to copy as a which user? EC2 user. EC2 user. To this server. Guys, in your Jenkins, you are using some plugin, deploy container plugin, something you are using. In the background, that plugin also doing what in the background? That plugin also copying that file to that. Okay. I am manually doing this to this server. Which location? Which location? Wherever I have a Tomcat. In which location, in which folder I have Tomcat installed? I think in OPT folder, I have a Tomcat 8. In OPT folder, I have a Tomcat 8. Within that, which folder? Web apps folder. Now, I'm trying to copy like this. So this will be my application context. This will be my application context. That var file name is most of the cases your application context. This will fail. Why it will fail? If I execute, this will fail. Even though I type yes. Why it is failed? Why it is not able to copy? SCP also. Does SCP also need to authenticate with that server? Yes. But do I have any password-based authentication enabled? Password-based authentication enabled? No, there is no password. So can I use PEM file? Can I use PEM file? Whatever PEM file I already have in this server. We already have in this server. Did I use same PEM file while creating this server also? But where is that PEM file? Is that PEM file in this current directory? Is that PEM file is in the current directory? No, that is in the home directory. Can I refer something like this? Tilt symbol, home directory, that PEM file. Now, will it copy this WAR file now? Is the WAR file copied? Just to test, just to test, can I test like this? Again using curl that IP with whatever server I deployed, 10.0.0.93. Am I getting, 1 second, again slash is required. Am I getting 200 response and response from that application now? Which means, is that application deployed in this server now? Similarly, can I deploy to another server? Similarly, can I deploy to another server? Yes. But I am doing it manually. But each time, let's assume you don't have a DevOps methodology in your project. You are not following DevOps methodology, DevOps process. Let's say each time developer is modifying the code, do you need to do all these things every time manually? Whenever developer is modifying the code in the lower environments, you need to do this manually. But if I have a Jenkins in place, DevOps in place, continuous integration, continuous deployment in place, whenever developer modified the code, if you have a pipeline, will it continuously take the code, test, build the application package, do the deployments to those servers? If you have a automation, that is going to happen automatically, which you already know. What is Jenkins, what is CI, what is CD? That's why I'm not again wasting my time here. I am primary focus is on this one only. Now I am trying to copy this file. Now in this application also, 204 application also, now is my application deployed and accessible? Yes. But now since these are in a private servers, will I able to access this one from internet, from different networks? Even though port is open for everyone, am I able to access that application from internet? No. Now how can I expose this application to the end users? How can I expose this application to the end users? How can I make this application accessible to the end users? Can I bring load balancers in front of that application servers? So I will bring the load balancers in front of the application servers. But I don't want to do manually. I don't want to create a load balancer. I mean to say, I don't want to create one server here and I want to install Nginx and do the reverse proxy rules. I don't want to do that. There is a different way of setting up the load balancer. There is a service called ELB. There is a service called ELB, load balancers, ELB. So as of now, let me click on this load balancer under EC2 section only. So this is created long back. Let me delete this one. This is created long back. Let me delete this one. Now, as of now, do I have any load balancers in my region, in my Mumbai region? No. So let me create a load balancer. Before creating a load balancer, let me explain some concepts in the load balancing. We have a load balancer, ELB. ELB has a listeners. We have a target groups. So ELB has some components called listener. Minimum one listener is required to accept the traffic by the load balancer. Listener, the name itself is saying, do we need someone to listen if the request is coming to load balancer? Let's say I am creating a load balancer here. Do we need some listener here to accept this traffic, whatever is coming to the load balancer? So we need some listener there. We need a listener. Just to make it simple, earlier, when you guys are working in office or your family members are working in office, if you want to talk to your friend or your brother in the office, in the office, there are desk phones available. There are desk phones available, but are you able to call to that desk phone directly? No. Are you first calling? Are you first calling the front office person, the receptionist, saying that it will connect to the help desk? From that help desk, that front office person will it again route that call to the actual member which you want to talk? Based upon the extension. Similarly here, end users will access the application via load balancer. But do we need someone, I mean to say some process which should accept that request? Not a person here, some process. So that is what listener here. That is what listener here. Minimum we need at least one listener to listen the traffic at the load balancer. So listeners, minimum one listener is required. Listeners is basically, listeners are created based on the protocol and port. Protocol and port. So basically, what is the default ports we will use in the load balancer, because no one will use the port? What is the default port? 80 and 443. So do I need to have some listener in this load balancer which is listening on port 80 if it is not secure 80? And what is the protocol? If it is a network load balancer, on which protocol I have to create a listener? On which protocol I have to create a listener? TCP. So we need to have a listener. Now, if someone is accessing this load balancer also will have an IP address. Suppose this is the public IP address of that load balancer, let's say. We are not using any port. We are not using any port. On which port request goes to this server? Let's say this is the public IP of that load balancer. Let's say this is a public IP of that load balancer. End user is using this IP address. On which port request goes? From the browser. What is the default port? If no one is using port 80. So do I need to have listener here which will accept this request? Yes. Request comes to listener. Then what listener does? Because is my application running in this load balancer? No, right? What this listener does? The listener will forward the request to what? Target groups. Target group. Listener will receive the request and it will forward the traffic to target group. What is target group? What is target group? It's a logical grouping. It's a logical grouping of your targets, your EC2 instances behind the load balancer. Logical grouping. You are grouping logically. So if I have two servers like this, do I need to logically group these two servers? Do I need to create a target group? Logically group these servers, these application servers, these two. So you need to logically group these two servers. Can I use the target group in this listener? So if request is coming to this listener, can I ask the listener to forward the traffic to this target group? Java Web App target group. And in this target group, I have added these two servers. Which means anytime request comes to load balancer on this port on this listener, is it forward the traffic to this target group? Yes. So we need to have a listener, we need to have a target group. Can I create a target group independently from the load balancer? Which means, can I create a target group even though I am not using in load balancer? Yes. You can create a target group independently from the load balancer. If you see in the EC2 section only, in the EC2 section only, in the EC2 dashboard, do I have a target groups? Do I have a load balancers option here? Target groups and load balancers? Yes. Now, this target group is going to created. Madhu is asking, sir, what if that in case of that listener process goes down, which means your load balancer goes down. So who is managing that load balancer? You are asking, sir, what if that process goes down, which means your load balancer goes down. How ELB will work? Basically, who is managing that ELB in the background? Who is managing that load balancer in the background? AWS. So is it going to recover automatically? Replace, recover automatically? Yes. But if you are doing load balancing on your own Nginx, let's say Nginx process is down. Nginx also listens on 80 and 443. If your load balancer is down, even though your applications are up and running, if your load balancer is down, again, will it be a single point of failure? Does end users will be able to access your application if your load balancer is failed? Even though your application servers are up and running, end users will not able to access. But when it comes to ELB, in the background, does AWS will manage the availability of that load balancer? Yes. So that's why we are going for ELB. Now, I am creating a target group. Let me create a target group. Can I create a target group even though I don't use in load balancer? Can I create a target groups independently from the load balancer? Yes. As of now, do I have any target group here? No. Let me create a target group. Let me create a target group. Now, target type is instances. So target group name, select the target type as instances. Now target group name, I can give some name. Can I give something like this, Maven web app, something like this, target group, something like this, any name. If I want to use this one with the network load balancer, if I create this target group on this protocol, can I use this target group in network load balancer? If I create an HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol, can I use this target group in network load balancer? No. If I want to use this target group in my network load balancer, on which port I need to create? TCP. This is my target group port. What is the port? My load balancer has to forward the traffic to this target group. This is target group port, not load balancer port. So on which port the load balancer has to forward the traffic to this target group? That is on which port your application is running. On which port my application, my process is running in the target group? 8080. Now you are creating a target group on TCP protocol 8080. On which network? On which network you have your targets? On which network I have my targets as of now, in which VPC? This Flipkart VPC. Flipkart VPC. Guys, this load balancer will perform the health checks also. This load balancer will perform the health checks. Network load balancer will perform the health check on the port like a telnet. Why load balancer is going to perform the health checks? For some reason, your Tomcat is down, your server is down. Does load balancer has to identify that is not reachable, and it has to stop sending the traffic to that server which is not healthy. So it is going to perform the health checks also. But what type of health checks will be supported in network load balancer? Only port level it will check. It can check whether it can reach that port or not. But will I able to check the health on the application? Whatever application which is running inside that, will I able to check the health on the application in the network load balancer? No. But maximum, will it able to do some kind of a telnet on that port and see whether it is responding or not? Yes. But if I go with application load balancer, one more difference. If I go with application load balancer, will I able to perform the health on my application itself? Whatever application, whatever context I want to check, will I able to check? Yes. So why health checks are important? Why health checks are important? As I already told, does load balancer needs to identify whether that target is healthy or not in the background. If it is not healthy, will it stop sending the traffic to that server, that load balancer? Yes. So I will explain this. What is healthy threshold? What is unhealthy threshold? I will explain later. For now, go with the default. I will explain one more time. I am not modifying any health check settings. I am creating a target group. Let me click on this next. So this is not, let me use hyphen, something like this. Now here, while creating a target group, can I add the targets? Can I register the servers to the target group, which means I am logically grouping. Can I select these servers now here, this one, as well as other one, this one, this one. I can select this one also, but is my application is actually deployed in this server? I can select this one also, but is my application is actually deployed in this server? No. So I will not select this one. I will select only these two. Select these two and click on this include as pending below. Click on this include as pending below. Then click on create. So I created a target group, but did I created a load balancer as of now? No, I don't have any load balancer. So can I create a load balancer, and in the listener of that load balancer, can I refer this target group? While creating a load balancer, we will create a listener. In that listener, can I ask or can I select this target group so that the request comes to load balancer? Load balancer will forward the traffic to this target group. In this target group, I have two servers. So does that load balancer will balance the load between the servers in the target group again? Yes. So let me create a load balancer. Let me create a load balancer. As I already told, what are the types of load balancers you can see here? When I am creating a load balancer, application load balancer, network load balancer, and classic load balancer. So application load balancer, as I already told, application load balancer has a flexible feature, that your application, you can operate at the request level. Application load balancer provides advanced routing features like path-based routing, host-based routing like this. This network load balancer is at a layer 4 TCP layer. For now, let me select network load balancer. First, I'll demonstrate network load balancer. Later, I will explain application. I'm creating a network load balancer. I can give any name, something like this, Maven Web App, NLB, something like this. Again, if you see here, when I'm creating a load balancer, there are two things, internet facing and internal load balancer. When I am creating a load balancer, there are two things, internet facing and internal. So if I select internal load balancer, again, will I able to access this load balancer from different networks from internet? No. But now I want to expose my application to the internet. I want my application to be accessed from internet because my end users are in different networks. So I want to expose this application to the internet end users. So what scheme I have to select? Internet facing. Again, one more prerequisite here. If you want to create a internet facing load balancer, minimum 2 public subnets is required in that VPC. Minimum 2 public subnets is required for you to say, create a internet facing load balancer. Why minimum 2 public subnets is required for you to create a internet facing load balancer? Because you are creating a ELB, but in the background Is the instances are going to be created and managed by AWS? Is your load balancing instances will be internally created and managed by AWS? Yes. So for that ELB to create in the internet, do you need a public subnets in that network? Do you need a public subnets in that network? Yes. Why two? Why two? Because ELB in the background, it is going to have a two instances of load balancer, like a primary and secondary. Primary load balancer and secondary load balancer. Active passive load balancing, kind of an active load balancer and passive load balancer. So why two? One is active, one is passive, or both are active like that also. So why? Because for some reason this load balancing instance is impacted. Do we still have another load balancing instance available for end users to access instead of single failure? So in the background, it is going to have a two replicas, kind of an active load balancer and passive load balancer. And if something goes wrong with this one, request will be going via this load balancer. This becomes active, this becomes passive. And again, if something goes wrong in the background, is that replica, is that load balancing will be recreated automatically by AWS? Availability of your load balancer? Yes. So minimum, how many public subnets are required in that VPC if you want to create internet facing load balancer? 2. So do I have a 2 public subnets already in that VPC? Did I created a 2 public subnets in that VPC already? Yes. So I'm selecting internet facing load balancer. Now here, in which VPC I want to create this load balancer? Because in which VPC I have my application servers, I have my target groups. Flipkart, same. Here, you need to select your availability zones, your subnets here, availability zones. But while selecting here, do I need to make sure I select public subnet? 1A, public subnet, 1B, public subnet. Because in the background, is AWS is going to use these subnets to have those load balancing instances in the background? Yes. But will those instances will be visible in our account? Will I able to see those load balancing instances in EC2? No, that will be completely managed by AWS. Select public subnets here. Now, if you see, do I have a listener while creating a load balancer? Do I have a listener here? So which protocol, since this is a TCP, this is a network load balancer, is it supporting HTTP, HTTPS? No, TCP or UDP. Now, this is the default one. Suppose if I create a load balancer on different port, does end users has to use this one also along with your IP or domain? Yes. But did you guys anytime observed anyone accessing with the port also in the browser? Any application? No. So that's why I'm leaving it to default. On which port the load balancer will listen? The load balancer will accept the traffic? 80. So the moment request comes to load balancer on port 80, what action has to be done? Can I select this one? Can I ask forward the traffic to this target group? Can I select this option? We created already target group. So any request comes to this load balancer on port 80, it is going to forward the traffic to this target group. So how many targets are part of the target group? On which port target group is created? There are 2 targets. It is created on 8080. So does the request will go to any one of the server on port 8080, which is part of the target group? Yes. So do I have my application running in those targets, which is part of this target group? Yes. Even though these are private servers, how my load balancer will be able to forward? Is my load balancer is in same VPC where I have my targets? even though this is private servers, how load balancer can forward the traffic? Because is my load balancer is in same VPC where my targets are there, my application, same VPC, local route. But my load balancer will be in different subnet. My applications will be in different subnet, but all subnets are in same VPC, same network, right? So it can route the traffic. With this, I am creating a load balancer. Now, if you see, load balancer is getting provisioned. Load balancer is getting provisioned. Which means in the background, is AWS is going to create load balancing instances in the background? Is it going to create that proxy rules based on the listeners, based on the target group I have defined here? Is it going to have a proxy rules also in the background, reverse proxy rules? That is completely taken care by AWS. But here, does ELB makes my life simple? Instead of I create a load balancer, I install, manage load balancer, is AWS is doing for us? This is one service. Any application you take, do we need this type of services? You need a servers, you need a storage. Similarly, do you need a load balancers also? So instead of you are wasting your time, can I use this service to achieve better availability, time saving, all those things? Yes, but again, is this ELB is free again? Is this ELB is free again? No, everything is chargeable. Everything is chargeable. Now ELB is getting provisioned, which means it is still getting created. This is still getting created. Now, if you see, I have a ELB. Do I have a listener in this ELB? Now I am in load balancing section. Do I have a ELB? So do I have a listener in the ELB? This listener. Any request comes to this load balancer on port 80, is it going to forward the traffic to this target group? Yes. But here, if you understand, any request comes to this one, will it able to differentiate request is coming for which application, which host, which path? No. Because it's a network load balancer. It will blindly forward the traffic. Whatever comes on this load balancer on this port, it will blindly forward the traffic to this target group. Will I able to route the traffic to different target groups, which means different applications based on the request host, based on the path? Here, no. Whatever request comes here, it will forward it to this target group. In this target group, do I have some targets? How many targets I have as of now? Total targets? 2. Now, how many are healthy? How many are unhealthy as of now? It is performing the health check the moment I added this in the load balancer. One is healthy, another one is showing initial. Is it going to take some time? Initial. It is not unhealthy. It is saying initial. After some time, it can be either unhealthy or healthy. So by this time, do you see it is healthy, both healthy? Which means, is your load balancer is able to ping or telnet this server on port 80, this server on port 80, which means it is just testing whether it is able to reach that server on that port or not. Now, this is my load balancer. This is kind of a DNS name for my load balancer. Now, this load balancer is active. Now, can I access this load balancer using the DNS name, kind of a name here? I'm not using any port. I'm not using any port. Request is going to that load balancer on which port? Now, 80. Now, is it forwarding the traffic? Load balancer. I am talking about load balancer. Request is going to that load balancer on which port? 80. Is that load balancer has a listener? As a listener which is listening on port 80? And is it forwarding the traffic to the target group? So if you see, am I getting a response from the targets from my application servers? Now, what is my application context here? Maven-web-application. Now, if you see, am I getting a response from one of the server? I have multiple servers there. Am I getting a response from one of the server, one of the application server? If you see, from which application server I customize this application just to print the IP address from which server I am getting a response. I customize this code. Am I getting the response from this server, my application server? Now, you guys also able to access this application using that URL, whatever I pinged you, using that load balancer. Are you guys also able to access that application from internet? For you, it might be from different server. Are you guys getting response from any other server except 204? I am getting from 204. You might be getting from something else also, some guys. Which means, is it doing the load balancing between those two targets? Is the load balancer is distributing the load? Yes. So this is how load balancer works. So I'll continue tomorrow. It's already late. I want to conclude this at some extent, so that way I have took some time. So we have a load balancer. We are able to access. Other topics I'll continue tomorrow. Okay. What is network application load balancer? What is DNS? How to create DNS? Because as a human, does anyone can remember this one? Suppose you are the user of my application. As a human, do you guys able to remember this one? No. So what is domain? What is DNS? How to map domains? All those things I'll continue tomorrow. Very, very important topic. I am trying to cover pin to pin all the topics. Theoretically, I am explaining. At the same time, manually, I mean to say labs also I am doing. Very important. Don't miss any session. If you miss, if the same question is asked in the interview, you cannot explain. And also all these concepts you will use in your actual projects also. If they ask you to work on these concepts, or if there are issues in this area, you will not able to understand and troubleshoot if you don't attend, if you don't do the practice. So don't miss any session, guys. Every session is important. Every session is related to other. There is not like a one-day batting you can do in the college, right? There is not like important question, not important question, not like that. Every topic is important. Some or the other day, you are going to use that tool or topic. So don't miss. Whatever has been done today, try to do this in your AWS account. I'll continue tomorrow from here. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.